I'll never forget the day my dad called me into the living room. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of quiet Sunday where the sunlight streams lazily through the curtains and the house feels almost too still. I thought he just wanted to talk about homework or something ordinary, maybe even share a story from his childhood, but the look on his face stopped me cold. There was this weight in his eyes, the kind of look that makes you instantly tense, like you've accidentally walked into a room you weren't meant to see. "Sit down," he said, his voice low but steady. Calm, but heavy. Not the calm I was used to. My mom wasn't around, and for a moment, I wondered if I should have asked where she was. But something told me I shouldn't move, shouldn't interrupt. So I sat, my hands gripping my knees like a lifeline. For a few seconds, he just stared at me, and I realized how much I didn't know about him. I'd always thought I knew my dad. The man who made pancakes every Saturday morning, who knew all my friends' names, who always said the right thing when I was upset. But in that moment, he seemed like a stranger wearing my dad's face. Then he said it, and suddenly, the house didn't feel like home anymore. He took a deep breath, and the words spilled out slowly, carefully, like he was measuring every syllable, like each one could break us apart. I remember hearing the words and feeling my stomach drop, my chest tighten, like someone had shoved a heavy weight right onto my ribs. I wanted to ask him to stop, to take it back, to tell me it wasn't real, but it was real. Too real. I don't think I fully understood what he was saying at first. My mind kept trying to fill in the blanks, to convince myself that maybe I was hearing him wrong. But the longer he spoke, the more I realized there was no misunderstanding. What he was telling me, it wasn't just a secret. It was a truth that could change everything I thought I knew about my family. About him. About us. By the time he finished, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something I couldn't step back from. The kind of moment that leaves your whole world teetering, like the ground underneath you has been quietly pulled away. And I could see it in his eyes too. He knew that once he said it, nothing would ever be the same. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to pretend none of it happened. But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it. And then he said one last thing, a line that cut through the air like a knife, and it wasn't just shocking. It was something that would set off a chain reaction I never saw coming. I blinked, trying to process it all, and the living room felt smaller, tighter, as if it was closing in around me. I wanted to ask a million questions, but my voice was gone. All I could do was sit there and wait for him to explain what I now feared more than anything. The truth that had already shattered the peace of our family. And that's when he said something that changed everything. Before that day, I thought I understood my family. My dad, Mark, was the kind of man who always seemed in control, the quiet anchor in our household. My mom, Sarah, was warm but serious, always keeping everything running smoothly. And me? I was 16, just figuring out how to balance school, friends, and the strange pull of wanting to understand the people who raised me. Life felt normal, or as normal as a family of three could be. We had routines that felt safe. Saturday pancakes with my dad's corny jokes, Sunday walks to the park, evenings curled up on the couch watching old movies. Even the small fights between my parents seemed harmless, just the normal bickering of people who loved each other. I never thought there were any secrets so big that they could shake the foundation of our home. But lately, something had been off. I didn't notice it at first, maybe because I was wrapped up in school and friends, but there were little cracks I couldn't ignore anymore. My mom had been quieter than usual, her smiles forced, and sometimes she would glance at my dad like she was bracing for something. My dad, who was always steady, had started locking his phone, stepping out of rooms when my mom called, and sometimes staring off into space with a blank look that made my skin crawl. I told myself I was imagining it, that maybe adulthood was just complicated. I remember the nights when I'd lie in bed, listening to the faint murmur of voices downstairs. They sounded normal, ordinary, but there was a tension I couldn't place. My parents would laugh, but it was too sharp, too rehearsed. I'd wonder if they were arguing about money, work, or something else entirely. I didn't ask. I was too young, too afraid, too aware that some things in a family are just not meant to be understood. And yet, in the weeks leading up to that Sunday, I started noticing more. Little slips. A sentence my dad almost said, a pause too long when my mom answered a question. The way they avoided each other's eyes sometimes, as if both of them were carrying something heavy that neither could share. I couldn't name it, but I could feel it. A quiet storm brewing beneath the surface, invisible yet undeniable. I should have realized then that our family's peace was fragile, that it had been held together by habits and routines rather than truth. But I didn't. I thought we were untouchable, that our home was a safe place where nothing dark could sneak in. So when my dad finally sat me down that Sunday, the calm I had always associated with him was gone. I didn't know it yet, but the words he was about to say were not just a revelation. They were a fault line. And once it cracked, everything we had relied on, everything we thought we knew about each other, would be in danger of falling apart. I wanted to understand, to ask questions, but the fear in me made me silent. My dad's gaze held me captive, like he was warning me without speaking. And then, just as I thought I might finally breathe again, he dropped a line that didn't just raise questions. It opened a door I wished I could slam shut. After that Sunday, nothing felt the same. I walked through our house like a stranger, noticing details I'd never seen before. The way the curtains hung slightly crooked, the faint smell of my dad's cologne lingering in empty rooms, the soft hum of the refrigerator that suddenly felt too loud. Every sound, every shadow, seemed to carry a hidden meaning. I wanted to talk to my mom, to ask her if she knew what he had said. But even approaching her felt risky, like stepping on a thin layer of ice that might crack under the weight of my questions. She smiled at me that evening, her lips gentle, her eyes carefully neutral, and I realized she already knew something she was keeping from me. That made my chest tighten in a way I couldn't explain. At school, I could barely focus. Every conversation felt hollow, every laugh forced. I kept replaying my dad's words over and over, each time noticing a new detail I hadn't understood before. They didn't just disturb me, they rattled something deep inside, a part of me that had trusted the rhythm of our home. Now, that rhythm had been broken, and I didn't know how to fix it. I tried to confront my dad, to get clarity, but he would dodge my questions with practiced calm. His eyes held a storm behind them, a warning I wasn't supposed to ignore. The tension between us grew, and even small gestures, a glance, a pause in conversation, felt loaded with meaning. Every day, I felt like I was unraveling a puzzle with missing pieces, and the more I tried to understand, the more confused I became. Then, one evening, I overheard a snippet of a conversation I wasn't meant to hear. My dad was on the phone, his voice low and urgent, the words fragmented, but the tone was enough to send a chill down my spine. There was talk of something that shouldn't exist, something that could change everything. I froze in place, heart racing, listening to the fragments of a secret I couldn't fully grasp but knew was dangerous. That night, I went to bed with a knot in my stomach I couldn't untangle. Sleep wouldn't come, and the shadows in my room seemed to lean closer, whispering the unknown horrors that were creeping into my family. And somewhere deep inside, I sensed that what I had just glimpsed was only the beginning. The next day, everything I thought I knew about my parents, their smiles, their routines, their love, was about to be tested in a way I never could have imagined. And I had no idea if we would survive what was coming. The days that followed felt like walking through a storm with no shelter. Every interaction with my parents was heavy, weighted with unspoken truths. My dad's glances seemed sharper, calculating, as if he was measuring how much I could handle. My mom's smiles had become fragile, almost rehearsed, and every time she walked past me, I felt the faint brush of fear, like she was carrying secrets too heavy to share. I tried to act normal, tried to go through the motions of school and homework, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. Even our home, the place that used to feel safe, had become a maze of whispers and shadows. I noticed doors left slightly ajar, the faint scent of cologne that wasn't as usual, the way my mom would step outside, phone in hand, and talk in hurried, hushed tones I couldn't quite catch. It was like everyone was speaking in codes, and I was the only one without the key. One evening, I found myself in the living room alone. The house was quiet, too quiet. My dad had gone out for work errands. My mom was upstairs, and I was left staring at the empty sofa, trying to make sense of the silence. That's when I saw it. A small envelope tucked under the edge of the cushion, my name scrawled in my dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I picked it up. Inside was a single photograph, old and slightly faded. It showed my family, but something was wrong. Someone, or something, was hidden in the background. Faces I didn't recognize, eyes too dark, smiles too sharp. My chest tightened. I didn't understand, but my instincts screamed danger. Before I could think further, I heard footsteps. My dad's boots on the wooden floor, slow, deliberate, measured. He didn't call my name, didn't speak, just stopped in the doorway, his eyes scanning me like a predator. "You found it," he said, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made my stomach drop. "I didn't want you to see that yet." I wanted to ask questions, to demand answers, but my voice caught in my throat. I could feel the tension between us crackling like static, thick enough to choke on. His gaze held mine, unflinching, and for the first time, I realized the truth wasn't just a story he was about to tell. It was a warning. A warning that if I wasn't careful, everything I loved, everything I thought I knew, could vanish in an instant. Then, just as I thought I might finally speak, my dad's hand moved toward the envelope in my hands, hesitated, and froze. For a heartbeat, time seemed suspended. I wanted to pull it away, to run, to uncover whatever secret it held, but I knew I was teetering on the edge. One wrong move, and the fragile balance of our family would shatter completely. I looked at him, desperate for a hint, a clue, anything, but his expression was unreadable. And then he leaned in slightly, his voice dropping to a whisper that sent chills down my spine. "There's something you need to know, something I should have told you long ago." In that moment, I realized the truth was coming. The kind of truth that could change our lives forever. And deep down, I feared it wasn't just going to break our family's peace, it might destroy it entirely. Just when I thought I understood what my dad was about to tell me, he paused, eyes darkening in a way that made my stomach sink. "There's more," he said quietly, almost too calmly. "Something I never wanted anyone to know." I froze, my mind racing. How could there possibly be more? I had already felt my world tilt on its axis, and now he was about to pull the floor out from under me again. My heart hammered in my chest as he reached for the envelope. But instead of handing it to me, he opened it himself and pulled out another photograph. New, sharper, more recent. My breath caught. It wasn't just our family in this one. There were people, strangers, watching us. People I had never seen before, eyes hidden but intent. And behind them, my mom. My mom smiling, holding something I couldn't yet identify, a secret she had been hiding all along. I wanted to scream, to ask questions, to run, but the weight of the moment pinned me in place. My dad's next words were softer, but they cut deeper than any anger could. "You think you know the truth about us, but you don't. Not even close." And in that instant, I realized the story of our family was far darker than I had ever imagined, and nothing would ever be the same. I stared at the photograph in my dad's hands, my mind spinning faster than I could process. The strangers, my mom, the hidden object she clutched. It all came together in a sickening wave of understanding and disbelief. "You need to know the truth," my dad said, voice trembling slightly now, the calm facade cracking. "Mom, she's been hiding something from us. From me. From you. And it's bigger than anything you could imagine." My pulse raced. I felt frozen in place, my chest tight, my mind screaming for clarity. He took a deep breath and began to explain. Years ago, long before I was born, my mom had been involved in something she thought was behind her. A mistake, a secret that could ruin lives if it ever got out. And somehow, it had followed her here, into our family. That envelope, those photographs, they weren't just memories. They were evidence. Evidence that someone was watching us, that our safety had been compromised, and that my mom had been living a double life without anyone realizing. Tears welled up in my eyes as I looked at her, at the mother I thought I knew. Her face, pale and tight with tension, crumbled slightly. "I never wanted you to see this," she whispered. "I thought I could protect you all, but now it's out." Before I could ask another question, there was a knock at the door. Sharp, insistent. My dad's hand went to the lock, but it was too late. The door swung open, and there stood a man I had never seen before, holding a small, sealed envelope. His eyes were cold, calculating. "You shouldn't have opened that," he said, voice low, dangerous. "Now you all have to pay for what she did." My mom gasped. My dad stepped in front of me. And in that instant, I realized the truth was even darker than we feared. The secret wasn't just hers. It had put us all in danger, and the danger was here. Right now, I wanted to run, to scream, to hide, but it was too late. The calm we had taken for granted, the peace we had believed in, it was gone. And the real test of our family, the thing that would either destroy us or change us forever, had only just begun. As the man stepped closer, the weight of every hidden lie, every unspoken truth pressed down on me. And in that moment, I understood nothing about our family would ever be the same, and the final revelation had yet to come. The man at the door didn't get the reaction he expected. My dad, despite the tension in his body, stood firm, his hand on my shoulder like a shield. My mom's face was pale, but there was a resolve in her eyes I hadn't seen before. And I realized then that whatever mistakes had been made in the past, whatever secrets had been hidden, we still had each other. He spoke again, cold and threatening, but my dad didn't flinch. "You don't scare us," he said quietly, almost more to himself than to the stranger. We faced this together. For a tense moment, it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. Then my mom stepped forward, her voice calm but unwavering. "Everything you think you know about our family, about me, you don't. But we are stronger than you realize." She held up the envelope the stranger had brought. "And we're not afraid to protect what's ours." It was in that moment, watching my parents stand side by side, that I truly understood the meaning of family. Not just the smiles and routines, but the unspoken strength, the loyalty, the willingness to face fear together. The fear didn't disappear, but it became manageable because we faced it as one. The stranger hesitated, clearly realizing he wasn't going to win. Slowly, carefully, he stepped back, eyes narrowing, and then turned and left. The door closed, and the tension that had held the house captive for days began to ease, replaced by a quiet, tentative relief. We sat together in the living room afterward, the envelope between us, its contents no longer a threat but a reminder. My mom told me the story in full, the choices she had made, the risks she had taken, the consequences she had feared. My dad listened, asked questions, and never once judged. I listened too, and for the first time in days, I felt like the fog had lifted, even if only slightly. I realized then that secrets, no matter how heavy, don't have to destroy us. They can teach us about trust, resilience, and the courage to face uncomfortable truths. Our family's peace had been shattered, yes, but in that shattering, we had found something stronger: honesty, understanding, and a deeper bond than I had ever imagined. And as I looked around the room, at my parents' faces, the lines of worry still there, but softened with relief, I understood that life would never be perfect, and there would always be shadows lurking somewhere. But together, we could face them. I tucked the envelope away, not as a symbol of fear, but as a lesson. And in that quiet, imperfect living room, sunlight spilling through the curtains as it always did, I finally felt a sense of peace. A fragile, human peace that came not from ignorance, but from love, resilience, and the knowledge that even the darkest truths can be faced if you stand together. And deep down, I knew that while our family had survived this storm, the world outside would always challenge us again. But we were ready, because we were more than secrets. We were family.